Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing, and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself, and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in.
Hello, welcome to the podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, you will see that I am on my laptop, so video quality isn't as good in this intro. The audio quality might not be amazing. You might even hear some squawking in the background. My kids are currently playing outside in the pool, making a lot of noise, so that is them and not a bird if you hear them. But stick with me. In a couple of minutes when we go to the main episode, we'll jump back to our good quality video and audio. But I did want to do an intro for this episode because Chris and I interviewed the lovely Karena from the USA. We are talking all about feeling it to heal it and somatic emotional processing, which Karena is an expert in. And so we're really diving into somatic therapy, feeling emotions and sensations in order to heal not just your mental state and parts of you, mental emotional states, but also your physical body. And we're digging into holding space for the subconscious, unconscious parts of us that need to be heard in order to heal. And these parts of us also have so much wisdom and learning. Stick around to the end of the episode because Karena will also take us through a somatic healing practice to bring safety back to the nervous system, which was just divine when Chris and I were her clients and went through it. Also talking about clients, so clients inside our Ending Body Burnout Method program, we are lucky enough to have this amazing practitioner coming into our Ending Body Burnout Method in a few weeks' time to take you through a somatic healing workshop. The focus will be on communicating with sensations in our body, creating safety in our body, and no talk therapy used in this session. It's going to be all using the somatic neurosensory parts of our bodies to be able to connect to the messages from our body. And essentially, when we can gather those messages and allow them to move through our body, we can heal. So look forward to that session. If you are someone who has been wanting to join our Ending Body Burnout Method for a while now, and this episode piques your curiosity even more, please feel free to pop your name down on the wait list for our Ending Body Burnout Method. We do open doors in a few weeks as well. So Karena will actually be holding the workshop during our launch week with doors open. So if you join in the first part of launch, you will be able to come along live to this workshop. It's going to be awesome. All our workshops are also recorded as well. And yeah, it's going to be great. So head down to the show notes and you can check out the Ending Body Burnout Method and pop your name on the wait list. If you join in the early bird period, you do get $500 plus worth of early bird bonuses, which is great. You may as well jump on early rather than later to get all of those. So pop your name down on the wait list so you get informed when the doors do open to our waitlisters. Okay, before we dive into the episode, I would love to share Karena's biography so you can learn just how amazing this woman is and what she specializes in. So she is a somatic healing coach who helps people deepen their healing journey through somatic emotional processing, allowing them to heal unresolved wounds and break free from old patterns that have been keeping them stuck. Dedicated to helping her clients heal the wounds that are at the very root of their struggles, her work is deeply transformative, compassionate, and profound. As the host of the popular podcast Somatic Healing Meditations, She guides tens of thousands of listeners through a powerful somatic practices to regulate their nervous system, deepen their healing journey, and feel better in their body. And I can definitely attest to Karena's YouTube channel. That is how I came across her. And yeah, I just loved her energy and her vibe, which is why I have invited her into our Ending Body Burnout Method to hold a workshop and also on the podcast today. All right, let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome, everybody, to the Ending Body Burnout Show. Philly and I are excited to have our guest, Karena Neukirchner, on the podcast. And just for our listeners, so we didn't press record just previously, and we got about 20 minutes into a really lovely conversation. So
all about regulation and getting into the body and somatic practices. So we're just
round 2 coming at you.
I don't know how you're feeling, but I don't know. I think you just have a really gentle, calming presence. So although it's annoying, it's just like, oh, it's okay.
It is okay.
This
really
is
because I. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's a practical example of regulation when things don't go, right, whatever that is. It's like, all right, well, that happened. How am I going to be okay here? How am I going to survive? Is the world going to end? Am I going to die? Feels like it. So yeah, anyway, this is kind of a practical example for what we're talking about today, right?
Yeah.
So welcome.
Self-compassion in action. That's what it's like to be human, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
It's like we stuff up and we're still awesome.
Yeah. It's not failure, it's feedback. Feedback that, those rules that we have of backups, they're there for a reason, and didn't do that today.
All right. So who is this lovely woman? I came across you through YouTube. You have an amazing YouTube channel where you share so generously the somatic practices that made a really big difference in your own health journey, which we've just spoken about, and we are going to do it again because the listeners, I feel, really resonate with everything that you went through to then become the coach and the somatic practitioner that you are. And there's lots of little gold nuggets in there too that we'll dig into. So are you happy to start again right from the beginning? Because you experienced your own, I guess, like anxiety or mental health journey that took quite a long time to get to a point where you started getting improvements in that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I was really an anxious person. Like that was just a huge piece of my story and my experience of life is that I had really, really high anxiety. And I also had like an inner critic and self-judgment that was so loud and so cruel that I even like classify it as self-hatred, really, in hindsight. But yeah, and so I was saying I'm probably similar to you and a lot of your listeners in that I looked very functional on the outside, right? Like I could get straight A's and I could be there for my friends. And, I smiled and laughed and that kind of stuff. It's not that I was miserable all the time, but inside my experience of my own self was very chaotic, very anxious, very judgmental. And I remember it like even when I was very, very young, having that inner critic that was just really, really intense. And so, of course, because that was my inner experience of the world, I wanted out, like I wanted to learn anything that would bring my anxiety down, absolutely anything. And so I live outside of Boulder, Colorado. So I tried all the things, right? Like there's so much meditation and there's so much yoga and there's so many spiritual practices. And so I was just willing to try anything, which was in some ways really fun and really enlightening. But it didn't really touch the anxiety very much. And it didn't really touch the inner critic very much. Like maybe I would inch down tiny, tiny bits, in the anxiety and self-judgment. But overall, inside, I was just still kind of feeling this constant internal tension, kind of almost felt like a lot of internal panic a lot of the time as well.
Yeah. And so I think you also mentioned you did a lot of trauma therapy. Was that, when you say trauma therapy, is that talk therapy? You went to like the psychologist or the therapist and talked about the past over and over and over again, hoping for a different outcome?
Yeah, I did a decade of trauma therapy, which
Mm,
is, I'm privileged that I got to do that,
mm,
honestly. There was, of course, things that I learned, and I think having an attuned human listen to me was great. But still, my anxiety and my inner critic were just like so hard to tackle. They really weren't affected that much by all the talk therapy and all the things that I was trying. And then in my 30s, I found this thing called regenerating images in memory, which is a somatic emotional processing technique that really takes you out of your conscious mind and more into the feelings that are held within. Because a lot of what we're holding within is subconscious to some degree, just in the fact that we're not, fully conscious of it all the time. And the real gift of regenerating images in memory is that it accesses those more subconscious levels that are held in our body, in our breath, in our psyche, in these deeper levels that just aren't totally accessible through when we're just speaking about things or whatever. It helps you drop into a deeper level. And that was amazing to me because I had been doing all these things, but of course I was coming from my conscious mind because I think that's just how we're conditioned, is
mm,
to really identify with our thoughts. And especially when I felt that anxious, I was very disidentified with my body, and my
mm,
feelings, like that felt like this whole overwhelming world. But when I learned regenerating images in memory, my anxiety came down about 50% in 3 months, which was such a miracle to me after trying so many things and trying so earnestly,
mm,
that I like immediately dropped everything and, like got on track to get certified in this modality. And that is still the modality that I primarily use in my one-to-one with the clients. And if you've listened to my meditations on YouTube, you've probably experienced some of it as well, because I work it into a lot of my meditations.
mm. Yeah, it's so amazing. It would have felt like a miracle if it's like I tried 10 years of like this and this and this and this and like got like a 1% improvement or maybe like a little bit more in the moment, but then it came flaring back. To have a 50% improvement in 3 months is amazing. Can you give a practical kind of look at what that looked like for you in terms of working on past stuff that was still stuck in the subconscious patterning?
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, so what RIM really helped me understand in those first 3 months, and it's helped me understand a lot more since then, but that anxiety, the root of it was like deeply internalized shame. Like when I was small, I had just felt shamed so often, and shame is so painful. I mean, I think a lot of people understand how painful that is, that I had these implicit expectations that were basically alive within me that the world was going to shame me, right? And I had this implicit narrative, even that I deserved to be shamed. And so, of course, that resulted in anxiety when there was this wounded, vulnerable part inside of me that expected the world to shame me, that expected myself to receive that sort of pain and that sort of thing when I was going out and interacting with others. And so it made a lot of sense once I finally could connect with that part. But I just want to emphasize that this wasn't just like a cognitive understanding,
Mm,
like it was actually me connecting with that shame filled part deep inside, like really connecting with the pain that she was experiencing and supporting her through that, because all of our parts just want to be heard and seen and supported. And that's what RIM helped me do, is it really helped me connect deeply in a feeling way, in a tangible way, with that part of me that was carrying those implicit expectations, and bring more support and love to her so that she wasn't alone in this shame-filled world deep inside, And that transformation not only was so profound for me in that my anxiety came down, but it's also such a loving and integrative way to transform our old patterns. It's bringing support to these parts that live inside of us.
yeah. Um, I love parts work. parts work. Like there's different ways that you can do it, but there are, like, it sounds like there was a little girl stuck inside of you that still hadn't been seen or heard or loved or protected in the way that she needed to be loved and protected in those moments. So being able to do that with self-compassion and essentially reparenting those parts is so beautiful. In terms of your upbringing, like, how would you describe that? Because I think shame can show up in so many different ways. So you could have the perfect parent but still experience shame, or you could have a really tumultuous upbringing and experience shame. And I think it's important for listeners to understand that how it can show up in different ways.
Yeah, yeah. I think I just had a very dysregulated experience in childhood. Like I was, in a family that didn't really know how to regulate. The anxiety was high, the panic was high, just in my family dynamic, And so even though on some levels you could objectively argue that there was love and safety there, it felt a lot like chaos and it felt a lot like panic. And, particularly one of my parents, when they get dysregulated, gets kind of shaming too, So
Yeah.
yeah, it was one of those childhoods that from the outside looks pretty normal and from the inside felt like a lot of stress and chaos.
Yeah. It's like, why didn't you put the towel back on the rail? What's wrong with you? It's like, no, I just forgot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So, like most of our listeners are running these burnout patterns, which often show up as overdoing, overachieving, people pleasing, perfectionism. And you kind of touched on that too, in terms of like, getting the grades and going after the next thing. Do you find that a lot of people who are running these patterns become disconnected from their bodies and emotions? And if so, why?
Yeah. Yeah. So we almost all of us have some sort of self-protective patterns or coping mechanisms that aren't ideal, right? That at some point in our life, like, all the people pleasing made so much sense because we were little and we were just trying to feel safe in a world that felt, really too big or too overwhelming or something like that. So yeah, I mean, we all have um patterns that are, showing up and either causing reactivity or causing burnout or causing fight, flight, or freeze, right? So that's like pretty normal. In fact, I think that that's a story I see in all of my students and clients is just that we developed these patterns when we were really young that made sense to some young part of us. And now they are very much less than ideal, right? Like now they're causing problems. And so, yeah, I saw in my own story that like I was burning myself out chasing goals that weren't even mine, like I was just trying to do what everyone wanted from me. I was trying to be the person that everyone else wanted me to be with almost no concept of what I wanted or that I should even care what I wanted, And so we're conditioned in a way that's deeply disconnected, in my experience at least. And then when we have emotional experiences that are just way too big to process or way too overwhelming, then yeah, of course we start to disconnect from our inner world. We start to disconnect from those parts of ourselves that feel embarrassing or shameful or painful or confusing. So this is all very natural. It's also the source of a lot of dysfunction and pain, in our inner world and in our relationship with ourselves and the relationship with those around us.
Yeah. I'm just reflecting back on my own story as well, which our listeners have heard. But it's kind of like there was this stuff that happened, but then deeper beliefs patterning around like, oh, I'm not as capable as other people. Oh, I'm like anxious and shy and nervous and weak and less than and middle child syndrome and like really cool older sisters. Like my upbringing, I would actually say was quite a happy normal childhood, but there were a bunch of stuff that then locked in these patterns of, okay, well, how can I feel like I'm enough? Or How can I feel like I'm worthy and deserving to be here and to be noticed and appreciated? And so, yeah, the patterns showed up as overachieving, studyaholic, to the extreme of like just putting so much pressure on myself. It actually wasn't coming from outside of me, but it was coming from inside of me, the pressure to try and then get that external validation, which then is disconnection. So anytime you go out of yourself to try and get it externally, it's kind of like there is this almost, I don't know, metaphorical actual disconnection with self, because it's like, well, it's safer out there. Like that's where I'm going to feel safe, rather than coming back to self and creating that safety inside of yourself. It's interesting to, and I think like logically, rationally, people understand this, but the emotions, so when you've experienced things where there's big emotions and then you actually become kind of like disconnected or start to dissociate or run away from pain. I don't know what my question is there. Maybe can you just speak into it a little bit more? It's just like my thought bubble was, well, yeah, like people will want to run away from it because they feel like entering into it is more painful. Like if there's shame, for example, so you were talking about shame, it's like, oh, okay, I'm noticing this emotion of shame. It's like, oh, yuck. Don't want to hold space for that or look into that or like feel that so I can move it out of me. I run away. Like, have you seen that pattern show up a lot for people?
Totally. And it's the most understandable pattern, really, because we're like biologically wired to move away from pain, and that includes emotional pain. And not only that, but we live in a culture that generally doesn't give us any good tools for emotions. Like the tools we're given are like judgment, suppression, denial, minimization, so like of course these are our patterns, right? Like it just makes so much sense. But what I've learned, on my somatic healing journey with myself and with, hundreds of clients is that when we are able to turn toward our feelings, whatever they are, even the yucky ones, even the very uncomfortable ones, in a way that's safe and loving, then those feelings are actually able to metabolize and move through us. And until we do that, we might be avoiding them, but some part of us is still feeling it. Some part of us is still feeling those feelings. Those feelings are still kind of running the show. When we push them down into the subconscious, even though, again, it's a very innocent and understandable thing to do, they get more confusing and they get more difficult and they actually get more power over us because they're shoved into the subconscious. And so, my whole, process is like drawing closer to those feelings, making space for those feelings, understanding those feelings. Because another thing that I feel is really valuable that I teach is that our emotions are messengers. They're actually carrying information from deep parts of our psyche. So when we can listen to them and understand them, then it's almost like they've done their job, right? They've given us the message like that really hurt, or I need a different boundary here, or like I need you to know the heaviness that I'm carrying right now or whatever. I sometimes sort of conceptualize them as like toddlers, which is not entirely true of all of our inner parts, but they need something kind of similar. They need to be heard and seen and loved no matter what they're feeling. And that's when we actually can find relief and integration, so that that charge is no longer driving us into patterns of perfectionism or overachieving or avoidance or, all of the patterns that we just.
We have a phrase or a frame when we're working with clients, and it's like, all right, let's look at the patterns and the programming and the beliefs and the emotions. And for a lot of people, that can be challenging, but you can't do self-awareness when there's also self-judgment. Like the moment that self-judgment comes into play, it's like, not safe, and any deeper awareness, and this is like at a subconscious level as well, and being able to metabolize it gets shut down. And it's also really hard for people to disentangle that self-judgment. So do you have any, I don't know, like top 3 tips. Or like, what do you, and I think it's personal for a lot of people, but what do you find really helps people to be able to just like let go of that self-judgment and just enter into self?
Yeah. Well, there's a number of things. The first thing I would say is that I just accept the self-judgment just as I would accept anything else. Like if shame comes up, we just accept it. Shame is here. If self-judgment comes up, we just accept it. Self-judgment is here. Like all of our reactions, all of our feelings, all of our parts make sense, right? Like there's a reason that the self-judgment comes in. It's trying to protect you. It's trying to shut this down. It's afraid, you know? And so if we include it and allow it just like we would any other part of ourselves, then that actually allows for curiosity. It allows for dialogue. It allows for understanding. And so when self-judgment does come in, like when I'm working with myself or with a client, that self-judging part is welcomed in as well. Like it makes sense. And it is often trying to protect us, even though the protection, is actually holding us back. So I always have a framework of whatever comes up is welcome. Whatever comes up is wisdom. Whatever comes up is, a part of you that deserves compassion and support, including the self-judgment. And the effect that that has is that we don't have to be at war with ourselves. We don't have to be at war with our parts, because that's the exact sort of thing that leads to suppression. And that leads to a lot of people feeling that they're internally at war with themselves, which is a really common source of inner tension. And I also consciously practice self-compassion, with myself and with my students and clients, because it is a skill that can be learned. And like any skill, it takes practice, and there can be backlash, right, from the parts that are scared of self-judgment or resistant to self-judgment. And so that's okay too, but that will come up as you practice. And that's important, that it comes up as you practice. Like I always tell people that when they're in session with me, their patterns that they have in everyday life are likely going to come up, right? So if their pattern is to dissociate, they might dissociate in our session. If their pattern is to judge, they might judge in the session or whatever. And all of that's just welcome, right? Like we're going to not pathologize or push away anything, because this is being human, and it's actually really good for it to come up if we can have some conscious awareness around it.
I love that. So yeah, because if it's I've noticed self-judgment, oh crap, go away. It's kind of like self-judgment of the self-judgment, or like the shame of the self-judgment. I've done it wrong and I can't do this. Whereas it's like, hey, self-judgment is here. What do you need to say? What's the pattern underneath? What's going on with that part? How is it trying to protect you? That's cool. And I mean, like my experience, because there was a lot of like, no, I have to be right. I have to look perfect. I have to do everything right. So I found when I was entering into this work myself and the self-judgment was there, I kind of just attached more dirty emotions onto it initially, where it's just like, oh, well, hang on, I'm not doing this right because I shouldn't have any self-judgment. So go away. It's like, oh, far out, now I'm failing. Whereas got to a point where it's like, oh, like, it can be there, and now I just hold space for it and I have a conversation with it.
Totally. Yeah.
So good. You have it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Do you have anything to say, by the way, Chris? Because you've been writing notes and stuff. No, just listening in.
Yeah, just listening in. I enjoy following journeys when I'm listening to our guests, and I can see a clear journey that you went through that I think will resonate with our listeners. It resonates with me. Going from little girl developing into a big little girl with self-critic, self-judgment, what you could be termed as self-hatred, as this on the outside things looked excellent, you excelled, right? And but on the inside there was anxiety, it was fear, and you knew innately that there was something not right. And I think that's the start of this whole journey. And just to recap, tried yoga, health practices in and around Boulder. Like, there's many beautiful practitioners, therapy, but there was still that inner critic, that inside not rightness going on. And I think that resonates so much. It resonates with me. It resonates with our listeners. I do want to just clarify the term. Like, what is the name of your practice? Regenerative somatics. Is that correct?
It's regenerating images in memory.
Right.
Which I don't think is a great name. We can shorten it to RIM because that's the
That's
acronym.
what it
but
means. Yeah, gotcha. You said that. You said RIM. Yeah.
yeah. So it was developed by a doctor here in Colorado. Her name is Dr. Deb Sandella, and she's completely amazing. And I love it so much. But yeah, I do feel like the name of it is kind of a mouthful.
As are most names for different types of modalities and therapies.
And I love a couple of sound bites that I think really resonated with me were you were burning out, chasing goals that weren't yours. You were disconnecting from parts of yourself just essentially to protect you. You had this this awareness that things weren't right, and there was this inner conflict. And then something beautiful that you just said, emotions are messengers. And I need you to know is basically what they're saying. And I really, really love that saying that you just said there. Whatever comes up is wisdom. I just feel like that is such a simple, profound, scary, very risky way of thinking about things, because what if I do have all the answers inside me? What if this is actually important data? Yeah, I just really, really appreciate and love those your journey and that wisdom as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love the inner wisdom, like my personal experience, and like meeting it, holding space for it, working through it can be hard and challenging. But anytime I've listened to myself, every time I've listened to myself on the other side, only good things have happened. So it is like you have everything inside of you in order to be able to be well and to heal and to be aligned. Like, it's all inside of you. And so when you can meet those parts and those emotions and learn from them, like, it's not going to take you to somewhere dangerous. Only good things will happen.
Yeah, well, that's one of the most amazing things about somatic work in my experience, is that there is this deep inner healing wisdom, that it's so much quieter than our thoughts. It's so much quieter than the parts of ourselves that we're listening to most of the time. But when we really drop in and reconnect with our inner world, like, it is amazing that we do have all the answers in there, and we don't always know how to listen to them, and we're not always going to, which is normal too. But like, yeah, it's profound, and it's like such an honor, because I see that deep inner healing wisdom come out in every single session that I do with clients, and it's so, I don't know, mind-blowing and beautiful and awe-inspiring, how much depth there is in every single one of us, even if we haven't been listening to it, even if we've been completely lost, completely disconnected, like, it's still there.
Yeah. I think you've spoken about this, and it really goes along with what we're talking about right now, but you have a phrase in your practice: you've got to feel it to heal it. Can you talk into that?
I like that.
Yeah. Well, it's just speaking about how we really do need to drop into our feeling states, into our body, because again, we've been conditioned to hang out in the mind, right? We've been conditioned to think, and talk, and that's different. And our feelings can't really be metabolized in that way. And that's where a lot of students and clients kind of find me, is that they've done therapy, they've talked about it, they're very intelligent, they're very self-aware, and yet they're still stuck in these patterns of emotion or patterns of behavior or even patterns of thought, you know? And that's really because we have to get to those deeper levels, you know, we have to drop into um, the feeling part of our mind and drop into our bodies, because that's where we can connect with these parts of ourselves in a deep enough way that we can hear their wisdom and we can help them with their wounds and we can actually transmute what's happening deep inside. It's really more of a feeling thing than a thinking thing, but that's
Mm,
a little bit to you know, express sometimes in our culture that has almost no framework for it.
yeah. And I think the problem is, or the issue too is, especially for people who run these kind of like overdo perfectionism, people pleasing, but often too, they're quite intellectual. It's kind of like, well, I'm going to logic my way out of this. Everything has to make sense. And so, like, a lot of people get really stuck in their head and it's like everything has to make sense. Um, Last night I did a practice. I didn't really have any problem. I'm just like, yeah, just I'm feeling called to do this practice. It was
Mhm.
very slow. It was very, there weren't a lot of words in the meditation, but essentially I invited the presence of people who don't exist on this planet anymore to come and hold space for me. And I can't
Mhm.
even make sense of what happened, but I was bawling by the end of it. Like there was something deep in, and I'm actually getting emotional just thinking about it. And my brain wants to make sense of it. And it wants to be like, what just happened? What just came forth? What did something clear? What cleared? How am I going to be different now? But I think in my own journey, I've actually just surrendered into, you know what, there's deep stuff inside of me that when they're ready to come forth and to be metabolized and to move out of me, cool, let it happen. Like it's almost just the trust and the surrender in my body has so much wisdom, as everybody's bodies do. And that when you can
Mhm.
hold space for that, it's like you don't have to make sense of everything logically in your conscious mind.
Totally. Yeah. I often tell my students and clients that your conscious mind is going to be the last part of you to notice the shift, right? Like you're going to feel it. Your body's going to shift. Your heart's going to know it, that sort of thing. And, you know, your mind is probably going to be the last one to be like, oh, look, I reacted differently or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's still a part of me that's just like, Philly, do some journaling on that. Try and make sense of what happened. It's like, you know what? I mean, I could, but it's also okay. If things are different in my life, yay. Things shifted. Talking about the conscious mind as well, like how specifically do you feel that getting into the body, getting into the emotions, more of this somatic work is different to say talk therapy or kind of like standard mindset work, which is more strategy based?
Yeah. Yeah. To me, it's just massively different. You know, a lot of neuroscientists have said that like 95% of our thoughts, feelings, motivations, and behaviors are motivated by subconscious forces, right? Like our conscious mind is really only in charge of this little 5% of what we're conscious of. And so that is not the part of myself that I want to be working with all the time because it's just not that effective, you know. And I tried it, like, trust me, I tried the mindset
Mm.
stuff. I tried, you know, the therapy and that sort of thing. And it's not that there's no value to it at all, but it's forgetting about this huge and real part of ourselves, our body, our emotions, our subconscious. And so to me, it's ineffective in, you know, that way. But also, I guess my experience of mindset work also felt really invalidating, actually, to a lot of my more emotional parts that needed support, not just like affirmations or whatever, like there's an aspect to mindset work that can be sort of suppressive or sort of invalidating or even sort of like self-gaslighting when like you're supposed to never feel a bad feeling or think a bad thought, right? Like that is suppression.
Be
That
positive
truly,
all the time. Yeah.
right. Yeah. So in my experience, that like fractures our relationship with ourselves,
Mm.
more than supports.
Yeah. There's sometimes, and again, like well-meaning people might say like just stop stressing, stop worrying about what other people say to you. Stop blah 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, great, like my conscious mind gets it, but what about the 95% of me that's holding all of these patterns and programming and beliefs that are like freaking out by that piece of advice? It's like it's actually really dangerous to stop worrying about what other people think about me. Yeah.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
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 Have you seen physical health issues improve with somatic healing? Because my understanding, and we see this in our practice, and it was definitely my personal experience, was when I was suppressing emotion, or, if emotions are suppressed, disconnected from self, these patterns are ruling the show, it has to come out through the body in some way. So we see in our practice a lot of chronic health issues showing up, whether it's like IBS, autoimmune conditions, chronic fatigue, body pain is really common as well. Have you also noticed that with people that you work with?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Because we're holistic beings. You
Mm.
know what I mean? Our emotions affect our physiology affects our emotions. Like it's all one, like it's not like we can just, my emotions are over here, my body's over here. Like it's all together inside of us. So yes, absolutely. And I feel like the more we listen to our body consciously and the more we bring in the support that it actually needs, the more those symptoms can begin to resolve. And it's always different. Everybody has a different journey. So like some things may be like 90% physiological and only 10% emotional or whatever, but there's always a mix of both. And when you work on that emotional component, you can get relief in some really significant ways. And there's a lot of great research out there that I can't quote off the top of my head right now, but talking about how like the more you suppress your emotions, the more you experience autoimmune disease. Like there's actually really good studies and data out there showing that there's just this inextricable link between our feelings and our physiology.
Yeah. I think the big link I think about the nervous system as like, it is physical because like we can actually see that there's nerves in our body, but it's also holding so much metaphysical, subconscious, unconscious patterning and programming as well. So yeah, when you're suppressing emotions, past distressing events, like things aren't being metabolized and moving through you and out of you, it literally puts your nervous system into dysregulation, which then starts impacting all these other body systems that then show up physically in the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the brain's pretty powerful too. It's like the amygdala. If it gets stuck in this trauma loop of like, I'm not safe, I'm not safe, I'm not safe, well, it's going to be sending all these like haywire messages to the rest of the physical body as well. Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. So can you give some examples? And I'd really love you if you're open to it, just taking us through and the listeners through like a 5-minute somatic practice that can help process emotions, connect with the body so that our listeners can really get like, we've been talking about everything and what this looks like, but I don't think you can really understand it unless you experience it.
Totally, totally. Yeah. That's what I always tell people is that we're not really healing by talking about it.
Yeah.
We're healing by regulating, we're healing by processing, we're healing by turning inward and listening to our, dear precious inner parts. Um, yeah, yeah. So I'm thinking maybe just like a short little regulation thing, just because the emotional processing things definitely take more than 5 minutes,
Yep.
at least in my experience, just because um one thing about the somatic emotional processing is that we slow so much down, which is so healing because our lives move at such a fast clip. But yeah, how does that sound? Like just some processing or some regulation?
Yep. Sounds good. How are you feeling? Are you over you didn't press record, or are you still needing some regulation?
No, it's good. Time was nice.
That sounds wonderful.
Awesome. So one of the things that I do, one of my favorite tools is called havening.
Mm-hmm.
And this was developed by a doctor in New York where we actually use self-soothing touch to regulate our nervous system. And so there are three ways to do it. One is to rub your hands together. I think you can see me doing it.
I just love that. It feels so good.
Yeah, it's a really nice feeling. So you can rub your hands together like this. This is one way to do self-havening. Another way is to rub down your arms from shoulder to elbow, just going down. So it's kind of like a moving hug. You're just going down your arms from shoulder to elbow, shoulder to elbow. And the other way is to rub anywhere on your face, cheeks, or forehead with your hands. So, like when I'm not being interviewed, I don't have my glasses on, I would just do my whole face, but you can do whatever feels good to you. And so just moving between these three types of touch, your hands, your upper arms, your face, cheeks, or forehead in any way that feels good. And it's been shown in studies that this type of touch actually sends delta waves to our brain. And those delta waves actually downregulate the amygdala. It's like a physiological sign to the amygdala that you're safe. And it takes about 5 to 7 minutes for that to happen. So it doesn't even take that long. And when we can shift the amygdala, out of fight, flight, or freeze, or whatever stress or trauma loop it's stuck in, we actually experience life in a really different way. So you can do the havening. And then one thing I like to do is I combine havening with orienting just because it feels really good. So as you haven, you can just take a moment and gently do a visual scan of your room or your environment wherever you are. So just kind of like gently and without urgency, just looking around, noticing the textures and the colors that you can see. Noticing the light and the shadows. And then if you feel comfortable doing this, you can let your eyes close and you just keep doing the havening because again, that havening is just sending those signals to your amygdala that everything's okay. And with your eyes closed, just take a moment to listen to all of the sounds that you can hear. So our nervous system is unconsciously scanning our environment all the time anyway. So right now we're just like consciously scanning. We're like consciously listening to all of the things that we can hear. And you can give yourself 2 gentle breaths and just listen to the sound that's closest to you right now. And now take a moment to feel the havening touch, like you can really feel the texture of your skin. You can feel that the texture of your palms is different than the texture of your fingertips. You can feel the temperature of your skin and even the quality of your touch. So when I'm doing, havening or any sort of regulation or processing technique, I often want to bring in the intention of gentleness or kindness or support. And that changes the quality of my touch. So just notice if you want to have a kind intention or gentleness or something like that that would feel good to you. And as you're feeling the havening, notice that you can also feel yourself in the chair. You can feel the chair beneath you. You can feel the chair behind you. And just noticing which parts of your body are making contact with the chair. And what that contact feels like. And then gently and slowly, you can allow your attention or your awareness to drop in even deeper, like into your body, into whatever you're feeling. And this is often where I begin the emotional processing, which again takes some time. But when we've kind of practiced feeling our bodies and we've practiced this soothing touch, it's a great time to just listen inwardly to what wants to be known or what wants to be acknowledged. And so maybe just taking a few breaths, noticing whatever you notice. And again, there's no wrong thing to feel, and there's no wrong way to feel. And we'll probably begin to wrap this exercise up just for the sake of today's interview. But just give yourself another gentle, loving breath. And then whenever you feel ready, you can let go of the havening touch and maybe stretch or wiggle. Open your eyes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I definitely felt, I don't know how long you were doing that, but maybe at the 5-minute mark, there was this this further drop into just calmness, quietness, stillness, regulation, which makes sense if it takes 5 minutes for the amygdala to just be calming down.
Yeah.
That was lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
I felt like around that sort of time, the stories started for me. Want to move, have to move, need to twitch, need to crack my knuckles, need to that was for me.
Yeah.
And then just in my personal practice, what I've been experimenting with recently in recent months is, just notice that's interesting. That's like you said, there's no what did you say, whatever comes up is wisdom. It's interesting. It's all data, right? And I in my mind, I liken it to like a cliff. Sometimes it feels like, I'm on the edge of the cliff. I have to do something right now. It's an emergency. But if I can just like allow it to be there, and that urge is actually more like being on the beach, and a wave comes in, and that urgency to run away or to crack my knuckles or to shift my spine or my back or position or something, I can just notice it, and then just like a wave, it just disappears, just like a wave on the beach, you know, and and I am safe, I am okay. And that can sound so, for me in the past, that sounded so weird. Just, what do you mean safe? Like, you're just sitting on a chair, but it's the same urgency as if I was slamming on my brakes, driving on the road and a wallaby jumps out in front of me, you know, it's the same sort of, I've got to move. I've got to crack my knuckles. I've got to twist. Anyway, I feel like that happened. Those stories came in around the five-ish minute mark.
Which I think is common for a lot of people, because stillness, you know, for a lot of people in the past hasn't been safe. It's like being still, slowing down. It can cause a bit of a like discomfort. Like it can cause a discomfort when it's just like
yeah, discomfort is dangerous.
Yeah, but then also the stillness is dangerous.
Yeah,
at a subconscious level.
Especially so a little bit of ADHD sprinkled in there, and traumatic experiences around that in the past. It's
Yeah. Do you mean like at school?
For
It's
me,
like sit still.
Oh yeah.
Be reverent. Be obedient. Listen up.
Chris, stop being naughty.
Stop touching
fidgeting.
things.
Stop fidgeting. Be good, Chris, or you'll get sent to the office. Again.
Again.
Totally. Well, yeah, and what I hear when you say that is an urgent part came in, you know, and again, like that's okay. And I even, you know, like if we were working one-on-one together, which obviously this was just a guided meditation, so it's a little bit different. Like I wouldn't require you to be still or to not crack your knuckles. Like, you know, like in, you know, regenerating images and memory, the metaphors that you use are so powerful. So it's like, oh, you're on the edge of a cliff right now. Like that urgent part really feels that, you know, like that's some of that somatic wisdom, is that we do start speaking in metaphors like that, and there's like deep real meaning to that, you know what I mean? And so we would like welcome that part in, and we would notice like, what is it like to slam on your brakes, or what is it like to be on that cliff? What actually happens in your body, you know? And what does that part want or need when it's standing on the edge of a cliff, or you know what I mean? So like even that little exercise brought in a lot of information, you know, as far as I'm hearing as you share, you know, that urgent part wants to be heard or wants to be acknowledged. And, you know, so anyway, I just honor that urgent part, and I thank it for showing up. And, you know, like it's telling you through the metaphors you're using and that sort of stuff, deep information about what it's feeling, right? And that might not be all of you that's feeling that, but that part, you know, might really be carrying that experience of like, oh my God, it's like I'm on the edge of a cliff, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Thank you. What a convo.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been so good. So for
We did it twice.
Oh yeah. One and a half. If only we did it all the way through, we would have got 2 somatic coaching experiences from you. Okay, so for any listeners who would love to find out more about you, I think Chris is going to bring up. Oh, are you able to screen share? Bring up the website.
I potentially
You also
can.
have a really cool free Feel It to Heal It mini course as well. Would you like to speak into that? And I'll make sure the link is in the show notes.
Yeah, I would love to invite your listeners to sign up for the Feel It to Heal It mini course if they feel drawn. It's totally free. And it's 4 somatic exercises that I guide you through that actually help you feel it because that's harder than you think, to create some safety, to create some tools so that you can actually drop in and listen. So yeah, it's a mini course with just these 4 exercises, but it's really got big potential for helping you. Oh yeah, there we go. For helping you listen more deeply into your own body. Because when we do connect with ourselves in that deep way, there can be just huge potential for self-attunement, self-compassion, a deeper self-understanding, and, feeling your feelings so they actually move through.
Yeah. Sign up, people. And you also have an amazing YouTube channel as well. And that's where you put your meditations, but you also have them on Spotify and what are the other ones? Apple, all the places.
Yep. So my podcast is called Somatic Healing Meditations. And yeah, you can find it on YouTube or any podcast platform.
Beautiful. And our clients inside our Ending Body Burnout Method are going to be very privileged to have you coming into our method to run a workshop as well, where we're going to do more havening and somatic practices and connecting with our sensations. So we're so excited for that to happen in September.
Yeah, I did too.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Ending Body Burnout show. And thank you, everybody, for coming in and listening. We'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. If you'd like to give us extra smiles, drop us a review and spread the love by sharing this episode.
You can also rate your own state of burnout and the root cause contributors by taking our Ending Body Burnout assessment on our website. And if you're interested in learning about our group or one-on-one Ending Body Burnout programs, shoot us a DM via Instagram or Facebook.
Have the best day ever.